What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another fun-filled adventure on Burnout Brighter. My name is Matt, and I'll be your host for this evening's events. This is episode 160. I'm joined, as always, by the incredible, the incredulous, the eye-catching Lou. What's up, dude?
What's up, folks? Glad to be here. Good to see everyone.
Warms my heart every time. And on this week's podcast, I am very, very excited. So excited, I almost screwed up the introduction because I almost introed the...
I know you definitely did a PlayStation Drive intro there.
100%, yeah. I was like, I ran face first into that because I usually start similarly, but this week we're joined by the Supreme Court of Canada himself, Mr. Court Lalonde. What's going on, my dude?
Hey, buddy. Yeah, that honestly, I was waiting. I was like, is he going to introduce me first? Because he's really going right into it. That was definitely the PlayStation Drive intro there.
I was gonna say, so for anybody who's unaware somehow, you know, Court and I rock each and every week on Carpool Gaming on the PlayStation Drive, doing the PlayStation Drive together. And this has been a long time coming to finally get him back on Burnout to join us to talk all about himself, his journey into gaming, his journey into content creation, and so much more. But Court, if somehow somebody hasn't watched us on the PlayStation Drive together, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Jesus, oh man, that's a loaded question. I am a dad first, content creator second. I'm elder. I guess I'm the elder statesman in the gaming industry. I'm one of the elder statesmen, I guess I would call it. But I've only been doing this for just over a year. My background, believe it or not, is hockey, which is actually on the screen in front of me. On one of the screens, sorry. My background is hockey, and that's how I got into content creation. And then I kind of fell off and just wasn't enjoying watching hockey anymore and talking about hockey. And I realized, talking to my brother and another person that I was doing a hockey podcast with, I ended up talking about video games more than anything else. And that's always been my passion. It's always been something that I've truly enjoyed since the Ghosts and Goblins on the NES. And I was old enough to, get that console when it came out. So that's kind of where it all started. I switched over and started doing a podcast called Three Dads and a Console with two huge Boston Bruins fans. And we're just three dads, and we were just chatting about games that, because we can't play games. I mean, Matt knows this more than anybody. I don't play games that are long and hard. I don't have time for it. So I play games that, with my daughter. I play a lot of Disney Dreams Light. Like, I play a ton of that game. Playing a lot of Grounded lately. I don't know why that's happening. Nice. And I even started going back into Assassin's Creed Valhalla. That's almost a punishment. But well, especially like I'm leaving for Florida. Like, I don't even know why I turned that on and played it. Like,
quite literally in like 36 hours.
Yeah, seriously, it doesn't make any sense.
So we'll get into what's new in a sec. We'll talk about what we've been playing, what we've been up to. But yes, Court is incredible. I've been honored to rock with him for 6 months now, dude. We've been doing the PlayStation Drive together.
That's what I'm saying.
Wild.
Right? It's crazy for me, to be totally honest. I'm very humbled to this experience, for the fact that I've been doing video game content creation. I was lucky. Let's be honest. I walked into it. I had a guest on my show who I do Xbox A with, Matt. And he's like, "Hey, we should do a YouTube thing. Let's see what happens." And then, one thing led to another, and I started like getting to know more people in the industry, I guess we'll call it. And then I went out and had a dinner with Matt, Mr. Sean Capri, and Ryan Turford in Toronto at Fan Expo. And like literally that's we all traded stories, and Sean and I became very fast friends, and I'm with Carpool Gaming. It's just, I don't know, man. It's so weird.
It's snowballed quick, and it's snowballed in a fantastic way, dude, because you are one of the most talented people I've ever had the pleasure of working with. Listen, yes, luck is part of it, but you are also an incredibly awesome individual who puts their heart into everything that they do, which is why things have played out this way. But we're going to get into all that in a little bit. We're going to do a quick round of what's new, check in with each other, see what's been going on. And Lou, I'm going to start with you. What's new? What's been going on?
Sure, yeah. Let's see. It's been kind of a busy couple weeks. I was best man at a wedding.
Yeah.
So that's always a lot of work and a lot of stuff going on and a lot of money to spend and stuff. But it was a lot of fun. But it's also like sort of when it's done, the relief is of like, oh, it's finally over,
Yeah.
The whole year is almost sort of divided in terms of before the wedding and then after the wedding. Um,
100%. I best man back in June, and literally like the anxiety and the tension that I had leading up to that, I was like, I'm so happy I'm doing this, but at the same time, holy shit,
yeah,
you know?
totally,
I feel you.
absolutely. Yeah, this is my third time being best man as well. So yeah, it's
Popular. Dang.
Seriously,
one. Well, what
I've turned it down once. That was it.
you're like Jean-Paul Sartre turning down the Nobel
Well,
Prize.
believe it or not, I am not good at public speaking.
Yeah.
I get very very nerve-wracked, very anxiety filled. I don't know why. I can do content creation no problem. Weird.
Mhm.
But my best friend was like, "Oh, you should be you want to be my," I'm like, "You know what? You really should pick your brother. You really should pick." And then he was like, "Do you want to be the MC?" And I'm like, you really should pick your buddy Adam. I don't think I'm the right guy.
It's okay. You're like
Yeah.
the
I'll
quarterback.
buy
You're
you a
like,
bottle of scotch. We'll make it happen."
which is funny that you've now become the, all things social for Carpool and killing it for the guy who doesn't like putting himself out there to put himself out there in such a fantastic way. Court, celebrate,
I
killing
know,
it.
but it's hard to talk in front of people.
I feel that.
You should, if you were at the Xbox showcase, you would have seen I was a mouse.
I find that very hard to believe.
Mm.
But I'm glad the wedding went well, Lou. Things went
Yes.
well. You're now past it. You're in the clear of best man duties. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Proud of
so
you.
for sure, thank you. Yeah, the of course in terms of gaming,
Mhm.
World of Warcraft: Wrath of the Lich King
Right.
classic came out. So I've been playing that. Been leveling up to level 80. It's been really slow. I forgot how long and arduous the journey to level 80 is,
Mhm.
and I'm level 73 right now, so it's going quite slowly. And yeah, other than that, still, playing lots of Hearthstone
Mhm.
Battlegrounds. New patch came out. Um, yeah, that's really about it with me. Of course, Dragon Ball Z too. We're
Yeah.
watching. We're going through Super right now.
Nice.
Enjoying it, and yeah, that's really about it with me. What's going on with you, Matt?
So hold on, question time. How is
Sure.
Super compared to Z/Z Kai? Because like I've seen pieces of Super. I haven't like sat down and watched Super. Should I?
Yeah, so I think it's good. There's some things about Dragon Ball Z when you're watching it that make you that you sort of have those moments that's like, okay, this is an old show. The
Mhm.
show came out a while ago. There's some sort of eclectic humor in it and stuff like that. The animation's not so high fidelity, so to speak.
Mhm.
Still a great show, and I think the animation is still probably better in Dragon Ball Z, but Super feels like a more up to date kind of show.
Nice.
Feels like a show you could see on television today. Um, of course, it just came out in 2015, so of course it's probably still in syndication. But yeah, no, Super's definitely worth watch.
Cool.
It introduces some really great characters and great ideas, and yeah, highly suggest checking it out.
Nice. I'll have to take a watch. Court, were
So,
you ever a
if
Dragon
you've
Ball
been a
guy?
best man 3 times, I just have one
Mhm.
question.
Yeah,
How
go.
many
Sure.
things do you have your initials on? Because, like, obviously, like, you always get, like, the beer mug or you get the cuff link. Have you had the
Yeah.
double gift yet?
Sorry, say again.
Have you got the double, like, do you have you obviously probably have a flask. I'm just
Yes.
going out on a limb here.
Oh yeah.
Probably
Okay,
already got
hold
the
on.
flask. Now, has it
Flask,
been doubled up?
Yeah.
Flask, beer stein is a very common one. You
cufflinks,
got both of
Great.
those?
whiskey
Big yes.
glass.
And
Great.
cufflinks.
So okay, so I've got the flask.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've got the beer glass. So it's not a
Yep.
Okay.
stein per se, but it's a
Yep.
glass. So that was a good
Yeah.
guess. And then I've got a pin, a gold pin.
Oh,
Ooh.
okay.
Yeah.
That's a little different.
Yeah.
Nice. What gifts did you gift, Court? What were your wedding party gifts?
I had a destination wedding.
Yes, you did.
The second time. Um, no, seriously. The first wedding I gave out cufflinks with people's
Mhm.
initials on it, and then my best man got a diamond in his.
Ooh.
Um,
Mm.
yeah, but they're not. It's a tiny diamond. It's like, come on, it's
Yeah.
almost like a cube or zirconia. I wasn't bowling, trust me. I was like in my late 20s. I didn't have the money. My second wedding, I gave each individual person in my wedding party a gift that reminded me of them or what we grew up with. So, like my buddy
Nice.
Ben, we used to call him a nerd all the time, and he used to have that Casio calculator watch, and he loved that thing.
Yeah.
Didn't have it anymore, so I tracked one down and bought him one of those.
No
And then
way.
and then one of my really good buddies loves playing guitar, and we're away all the way up in in Mexico, and you can't really fit much. So I got two of the guys, they really love playing music, so I got them both ukuleles while we were in Mexico.
That's cute.
Yeah, and then I got my brother. What did I get? I paid for my brother to be there.
That's a sick gift. Good gifts. Good gifts. Yeah, I did like custom belts for my guys.
And I got everybody matching Tommy Bahama outfits, so the pants and the shirt.
Yeah, I did the clothes as well. I also did I didn't know you did a destination wedding in Mexico, Court, because I did a destination wedding in Mexico. Look at us.
I did it at Mayan Riviera.
If you for a second were to tell me that we did it at the same resort, I would lose my
Coba?
absolute fucking mind. No, I did it at the Fives.
Yeah,
But-
no, we did it at the Coba, which is it's a very nice resort.
Mhm.
It's hilarious because to get weed, you got to get on the trolley to go over to the other. I mean, it's PG. This is
No,
different
it's
for
fine.
here,
We're-
right?
No,
You
yeah,
got to
we're-
get
we're
on the
R-rated.
trolley because you can't get it on yours. You got to go to the cheaper motel. So you got to
Mm.
get on like today. First, you go to the Hacienda, you get dropped off there to get on another trolley to take you over, and then you just get this bag of cess, and it's just like, what's the point of this?
Mhm.
But those were the days, you know. But
Yep.
I love Mexico. It was great. I want to go back. The haciendas where they got all the food, and it's just like you walk into the bar and it's just like tacos
There.
everywhere. Like,
Yep.
Jesus.
Yeah, Mexico is super awesome. Yeah, no, we
Besides
definitely
the whole fact that you can get kidnapped there and like, you know.
yeah,
That
we breezed
sucks.
past it. Yeah, we didn't really leave
Besides
the
the
resort.
human trafficking.
Yeah, besides just glaze
Yeah.
over that
Like,
one.
seriously, don't leave the resort. Or it was more concerning when you got on the bus and your bus driver's got a gun. And he's like, well, if we get pulled over. I'm like, what do you mean if we get pulled over? He's like, well, you know, it can happen.
If is good. In the words of Hercules. Yeah, no, we definitely didn't have people bring gummy edibles and stuff along with them for our
Well,
trip.
see, older
Different
I did-
times,
that
different
didn't
times.
exist back then.
Yeah, this
so
was
it
like 75 years
uh,
ago.
Well, that's the thing. I just went to Pearl Jam, and my wife is like
you
rolling a
did.
joint, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" She's like,
Dude,
"Oh,
your
well,
wife's
I gotta
cool.
smoke," and I'm like, "No one smokes weed at concerts anymore." She's like, "What do you
Yes,
mean?"
they
I'm
do.
like, "Well, no, not trust me. As someone who just went to Pearl Jam, everybody there in the world was on edibles. It was
Oh,
hilarious.
fair,
The people in
fair,
front of us
fair.
were like laughing. She's like, the lady behind us turned and was like, "You smoking a joint?" And she's like talking to her husband. She's like, "Why didn't she just eat a gummy?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, she's not wrong."
Dude,
Like-
your mom. Wow, your wife's hardcore.
Wow.
I love that. Yeah, no, I slipped into that one.
Yeah, that
Oedipal
was-
complex. Anyways,
Yeah, not me.
Court, what's been going on with you? What's new?
See, it's so weird when you say that, considering you know everything that's going on with me. I'm going to Florida tomorrow. Not tomorrow,
you are.
Wednesday. So
Mhm,
I'm
mhm.
leaving for Florida. I'm lucky enough to where the area I'm going did not really get hit by the hurricane. It did, but
Good.
it didn't.
Mhm.
I'm going to the Tampa Bradenton area, which, if you were watching the news, was originally like ground zero, and then the thing turned at the last minute, and it hit Palm Springs. Unfortunately, I feel so
Mhm.
sorry for everybody there. But
course.
it worked out for me to take my 6-year-old daughter to Disney World for the first time ever. So thank you, Hurricane. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess.
Thanks
Was
for
it
going,
Adam or Alan or
Ivan.
Ian.
Ian.
Hurricane Ian. So that is what's going on with me. I'm going to get a lightsaber, and I'm
Yes,
going to
you
get
are.
an Indiana Jones hat. See, it's you know exactly what's going on with me.
So you know what's funny, Court? I tweeted out that the picture from What We Do in the Shadows where the hat kind of looks like the Indiana Jones hat, and you're like, I'd rock that, and I was like, yes, but I would never want you to wear it. Have you ever watched the show?
No, I kind of
That-
so that is on. I think it's on Crave.
It's on Disney Plus actually in Canada.
Oh, okay. So it's on Disney. So I'm literally loading up my iPad with things right now. I watched Peaky Blinders on my flight to Texas, as I told you
Nice.
before. And so I'm finishing City on the Hill, which is a show about Boston, and the crime in the 80s.
Boston.
Everything about Boston. That it definitely
Boston.
not British. Yeah, like wow, that was
I'm known
it's
for my
like
accents.
Wicked smart, Boston
Wicked
Garden.
smart Boston.
Yeah, wicked awesome.
There we go.
And they don't really, if you talk that way, they kind of hate you for that. But that's okay. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
But I'm just downloading shows, so I'll take any advice. I downloaded, a movie I haven't seen yet, and everybody tells me is amazing. Is Tick Tick Boom. So that's on
I haven't seen
Netflix.
it either.
It's supposedly unbelievable. Oh, and I know the other one I wanted to watch, Green Knight. Oh, I gotta write this down.
Oh, it's okay. I wasn't the big. I fell asleep halfway through and didn't restart it.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
okay, don't take offense to this, but usually you and I have the exact opposite in taste. Like you
Right.
guys just talked about JRPGs and anime for a minute. Yeah, I zoned out.
Yeah, I just saw like your spirit leave your body for a second.
It just in out. in out, but it's
but
fine.
but to be
That's why I have
fair,
the
to be
hockey game
fair,
because I knew you'd talk about that stuff.
I know you did. It was very, very slow and not a lot was happening for large periods of time. Um, I think it's made
Uh,
very well and it's very aesthetically pleasing. And like I'm all about the slow burn. I enjoy, character pieces. This just had a lot of nothing going on for long amounts of periods of time. And I watched it on a plane, actually, funny enough, and passed right out. And when I woke back up, I was like, I'm not going to bother going back. So
Mind you, I need to only download stuff that my daughter's gonna be sitting beside me, so I have to watch. Like I wanted to download that new Zac Efron show that's on Apple,
oh,
but
the
it's
movie,
about the Vietnam War, and I'm like,
yeah,
the beer run thing
yeah.
looks amazing, but I can't watch that in front of her.
I would tell you not to maybe download What We Do in the Shadows then, because that is
Oh,
it's
there's boobies.
it's about vampires. There's blood and stuff. There's just other
Oh
stuff
yeah,
going
that's
on.
no.
I would recommend. So I'll hop into my what's new for a second. I got hooked. Well, not hooked, but I watched the first episodes of the new show Reboot, also
Oh
on
no,
Disney
I've
Plus.
watched them all.
So good.
Oh, so good.
Have
Actually,
you
the
heard of
first
it, Lou?
episode isn't the
no.
best.
No, it's okay, but then it
Yeah,
gets really good. I think the
yeah.
end of the third episode, I was like, oh, I'm in.
hmm
It has like Keegan Michael Key and Judy Greer and Johnny Knoxville. And
Wow.
basically, like the setup for the show is that like they used to be on a sitcom in the 80s, and now they're like rebooting the sitcom in like a dark and like mysterious way kind of thing. And it's about them making the show. And it's a comedy. It's fun.
Johnny
It's a good
Knoxville is hilarious in it
He's
with the
so good.
mom. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
so good. Yeah, so that's been really good. What we do in the shadows, but yeah, the point of the why I brought that up, that hat is cursed and is made out of a witch's asshole.
Oh, I like
So
that. Witch's
yeah, that's what
assholes can be nice.
I know, but it's cursed, and it's like a running thing in the show. This hat shows up multiple times, and I was like, you would rock that hat, but please don't wear that hat. Nothing good happens to anybody who wears that hat.
I'm gonna be rocking Hawaiians. That's what I need to pack for Florida. Hawaiians.
You got to hit the tech with the specs. That guy is drip central, Mr. Steve Vicvari.
Yeah, in nerd drip, but
I
it's
know,
fine.
but it looks good.
I don't mind it.
In terms of other stuff I've been up to, Sana and I got hooked on Indian matchmaking. It's a show on Netflix. Brain numbing, absolutely brain numbing. Listening to these people, basically the setup of the show is they take like a famous matchmaker from India, and you basically follow her around as she tries to set people up. Some of these people, I don't understand how they're real people. That like it's genuinely watching this like, and I'm not one for like reality TV and stuff, especially in that vein. It was recommended to me by a few different people, and I was like, fine, I'll check it out. It's a lot of fun. Court, if you and your wife are looking for just a stupid show to watch together, same with you and Julia Lou. If you guys are looking for just a turn off your brain and consume show, this is right up that alley because it's so stupid. And listening to these people, it's just like, how are you real? And then you see them go on first dates and stuff, and you're sitting there going like, I feel my entire inside crumbling in the best way. It's so bad, it's good. It's one of those things. Um, and yeah, I've also been making my way through Cobra Kai. I'm at the end of season 3 now. The show's all right. I don't think it's the best show. The fight choreography is okay. Have you watched it, Court?
It's the most overrated show on Netflix because the amount of people that tell me it's so amazing, and as someone that grew up watching The Karate Kid and watched all of it, and then I I felt like I forced myself to watch the season 1, and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get
I'm
it.
in the same boat. I don't know why I continue to watch it, but I do. People are like singing the praises of. I've seen people talk about the show for years and years and
Yep.
years, and people are like,
Mhm.
I cried in every episode in season 5. Like this, it's just so much going on, and I'm like, okay, I'm in season 3. I'm at the end of season 3, and like I tried to be easy on it at first. I was like, this was a YouTube show before it became like a full budget Netflix thing or whatever
Yeah,
thing
it's
that they
not
were
good
doing.
though.
I know. It's it's fine. It's aggressively fine. I don't know why I
Fine.
keep watching it, but I keep watching. It's fine. I
No,
keep
you're
watching
doing
it
it
though.
because everybody else says it's good. So you go on Twitter and like the Vigvaris of the
Yes.
world, they're like, "This is the
Yeah.
greatest show ever," and then I reply to them and go, "It's trash. It is not as good as the movies. It's not even close." And you're watching it because you think it's cool, I guess. I don't know because it's like the acting is very bad. The storylines are meh. I don't know. You know what?
Dude,
There's so much more better. There's Andor. There is
Andor's so good.
Lord of the Rings. There is Game of Thrones. Way better than the garbage you're watching.
But the thing is, I'm caught up on Andor. Andor's real good. Really enjoying it. I don't know
I
if I'm
haven't
ready to
got to it.
trust Game of Thrones yet, honestly, as a whole
Oh,
IP.
Trust
I've heard it's
it.
really good, but I don't
It's
know, dude. For
really
me, like,
good.
I've read all the books. I keep waiting for the next book. I watched the show, hated the last 3 seasons, and it's just like I just don't know if I'm ready to care again about Game of Thrones as an
Aw,
IP.
you can care again. And Lord of the Rings is amazing.
I've heard Lord of the Rings really good. It like people were singing, especially the last episode. Apparently, it's fantastic. Lou,
Very
have you
good.
watched either House of the Dragons or Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings?
Yeah, I've House of the Dragon is worth watching for sure. I was surprised. I had no expectations going into it, so maybe that's why it surpassed.
No
The
expectations.
exactly, yeah. But no, it's surprisingly good. I actually was just watching the latest episode an hour ago, and yeah, Lord of the Rings is cool too. I've got a friend who's a hardcore Tolkien fan. Went to school to study Tolkien and all this, and
Dang.
he I watched it with him, and he was surprised by it as well. He thought, it's not they're taking some liberties with the source material, but he said um, ultimately it's some really cool ideas going on, and as a show, it's fantastic. Of course, he was just speaking from the like a lore
Yeah, yeah.
perspective, right? But no, both great shows, definitely worth watching.
All
Um,
right. I'll
yeah,
download them both before my flight, and I'll give them each a
Well,
try. Lord of the
the
Rings,
way
I'm 100% in on watching. I just haven't watched it yet. Game of Thrones, I'm kind of like, all right. Like I keep hearing how good it is. I just don't know if I want to care.
Like I know we've talked about this, Matt, but I'm like done with movie theaters. Just let me have it all either on it. Like most, like the last couple Marvel movies. I know Matt. We've talked about that. They could have just been TV shows. Like
It's so
why were
funny
they
you say that
movies?
because everybody's complaining about the Disney Plus shows that they should have just been movies. It's funny.
Oh, they're crazy pants people. You know what? They're not married, they don't live at home, or they don't have kids, and they're like in their 20s and
Fair.
like, I want to go to the movies because I've got all this time on my hands. Well, guess what? I'm the one with the disposable income, and I don't got all the time on my hands. So you know what? You're gonna watch them at home, all right? Until you get to
Listen,
to my like area in life when you get older and you got all the disposable income and you're what they market to. Suck
mhm.
it. For now, it's marketed to us.
The only reason I still go to theaters is for Marvel movies or anime movies that have not released anywhere
So
else yet.
you get very disappointed then, because like Doctor Strange, not good.
I thought
So you went to
listen.
the
I'm
Thor,
also a diehard.
not
I
that
loved
good.
Thor. I loved Thor.
It was
Multiverse of Madness was all right, but I like Taika,
Thor
and
was
I
great until the very end, and then you're like, really,
yeah, it was yeah. But
really?
I got my Wakanda Forever tickets this morning. Stoked about
Mm,
that. That'll be
sure.
fun. I'm excited. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
know, man. The Marvel, it's not that I'm marveled out because I'm actually really enjoying She-Hulk. I
Right?
think I almost like the Marvel comedies over the Marvel action, except Falcon and Winter Soldier. Thought that was amazing.
So good. Really good. All right. So that's what's new. That's basically what we've been talking about. Court, I want to talk about you because we talk every week, but we talk about everything except ourselves, I feel like every
Ooh,
week.
okay, we'll
You
try
know what I
that.
mean? I want to dig into things a little bit. So you mentioned before at the top of the show, you got started with the NES. You got started back in the day. Tell us a little bit about your journey through gaming. What were some of your favorite
Journey through.
consoles looking back? Yeah, what are some of your favorite
Oh,
consoles looking back? Some of your
y-
favorite games. Tell us a little bit about the process of becoming Court.
for me, it's kind of funny when I talk about these consoles. People are always just like, "Well, no, such and such was a better console." I'm like, in my gaming always and will always truly be about experiences and about
Mhm,
what I share and this and that. Like right now, I am loving video games because I share with my daughter.
mhm.
But for me, the NES was the very first console I ever played. I was lucky enough to be in Massachusetts at the time. I was at friends of my parents. Um, we were at their house and they had just gotten back from Japan. So they
Nice.
had a Nintendo. They had Mario, Ghost and Goblins, and one other game. Son of a gun, I can't even think of it right now. I think it was RBI Baseball, believe it or not. Um, and no, Mega Man. Sorry, it was Mega Man.
Nice.
And the very first time I ever played a video game, because I hadn't even played a Coleco or anything like that. I had played on a Commodore 64, but those, like, if anybody remembers, like, even Transformers was just so brutally bad. But we would always play, like, the Olympic games, because those were, like, at least you could just play on the keyboard. It was a lot easier. But games on
Mhm.
the Commodore 64, they were pretty rough. I didn't really play on the Atari, but the Nintendo is where I first was like, my god, what just happened? And the very first game I ever played was Ghost and Goblins.
That must have been.
And the
Isn't that game
music
notoriously
still
hard?
it's a hard game.
unbelievably hard. Not like it's just literally. I make this joke all the time when like everybody on the social media is like, "Oh, Elden Ring's so hard." I'm like, you know what? Go finish Ghosts and Goblins, you little bitch. Like, come on now, shut up. Like I finished Ghosts and Goblins. It was like the hardest thing ever, but I'm not good at that anymore. But that game, you get 2 lives. You don't realize this because you can't get hit when you get to the Dracula. Because guess what? After you beat Dracula, he shoves you all the way back to the end and he's like, you know that armor you're wearing? Bye bye. Now you got to do it, and there won't be any drops of armor throughout the way. But one of my favorite things about that game and a lot of the 8-bit games on the Nintendo were the soundtracks. Like that
Yes.
Ghosts and Goblins soundtrack, Mega Ran does a remix of it, and it's one of my favorite songs. Like dun, 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 dun. It's so good. And it's in Ghosts and Goblins, like if you're about to die, like the beat speeds up. There was so
Mhm.
many good games on the NES, but that's also like just in my brain. Like
Yeah.
RBI baseball, I was really good at that game. You know, fat guy, skinny guy, and then you had NHL like ice hockey. But then I moved on to the Super Nintendo, and that was kind of when I was the first concert my brother bought. My brother's 3 years older than me, and so we
Okay.
got that with Super Mario World, and that became like, oh my god, like this is the greatest game of all time. And then I think we got Zelda,
Mhm.
and then we got Punch Out, which was just, and then it happened. NHLPA 92
The year I was
release, because
born.
everybody always talks about how like the Sega Genesis had, so NHL 91, NHLPA 91 was the Sega Genesis one. But everybody
Mhm.
always talks about NHL 93 being that quintessential game. I'm like, well, technically, it was called NHLPA Hockey first. So it came out on Sega Genesis first. I didn't have it, but my neighbor did, so I would go over and play it. But then I got it on the Super Nintendo. I played that game so much that my brother's friends would come over after high school, and they would just come over and I would just run the gambit on them. I was like, if you want to play on the Super Nintendo, that's no problem, but you got to beat me at this game. And I still, to this day, I have a mini Super Nintendo behind me here, and I can still go through and play NHL 93, NHL 94, because I unlock them,
Yeah.
and I can run the gambit on anybody. And I don't know why.
Just rinse.
Yeah, and then became Street Fighter. Like, everybody played Street Fighter on the Super Nintendo. We had drop-down ceiling in our basement, and my brother would get so mad when someone would beat him or something. We had indents of the left and right bumpers in the ceiling. So you could tell, like, a Super Nintendo controller, it just he got it in there perfect. And that's when Nintendo Thumb came out. People talk about, like, I just got the injury on my arm from, so Nintendo Thumb
Oh,
is from when you're
okay.
on the D-pad, and it's from Street Fighter. Like, that's when, like, you would go to school and people would be, like, talking about war wounds because, like, you got a callus on your thumb that you can't play the game anymore because we all played Street Fighter. It wasn't when you go on Twitter now and such and social media, people were talking about what game they're playing. Back
Mhm.
in the day, we were all playing the same game.
Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah,
Like,
like, growing up,
all
like,
playing the same game.
I remember
And then there
the
was no
first, like,
internet.
I know, right? And, like, the first cognizant memory I have of, like, a moment like that was Super Smash Bros. That's the first one for me that I'm just like, I remember all of us calling each other and be like, "If you do this, this, and this, you're gonna unlock this and this character." It was all
Yeah,
bullshit, but, like, just
totally. Well,
that rabbit hole thing of being like, "What are you doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing?" Games
you
were
talk about that,
a
and we
wild,
joke
right?
about how did we all figure out the Konami code? We all did it when we were in public school. I was in Pickering, Ontario, and there was Nintendo Power wasn't even out yet. We all figured out the Konami code. We also figured out on Super Mario where all the extra lives were, or how to warp. We actually figured out how to warp in Super Mario Bros. 3 because of the Wizard, the movie. So the game hadn't come out yet, so they to advertise the game, they put it in Wizard of the Movie, and that's when you found the flutes. So then we
Yeah.
were like, "Oh my god, that's how you go to the white thing, you drop down, and you can go over because the wizard showed us how."
So hold
But,
on, let
like,
me ask, do you still
yeah,
remember the Konami code?
up, down, right, left, right, A, B, select, start.
I think
I
up, down,
think
down,
left,
right,
right, A, B, select,
AB
start.
starts something like that.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Sounds right to me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
it's,
gonna fact check
and
myself.
we would my brother we used to draw the maps for Zelda, and then we also had the arcades back then. You had Bad Dudes, you had WrestleMania, you had Top Gun, all these games that you could only play in the arcade. And then the N64 came out, and it's funny how many people cherish this console, and it was
Yep.
the one console that the PlayStation came out, like, not too long after it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
Because
was
of
like no one cared. Like it was I laugh I think a lot of the younger generation really likes it because it was the console that the older brother or cousin or older gave away for free and was like, "Here, you can go play with this one."
Do you
Because
know?
it's so true because, like, Mario was awesome, but the rest of the games weren't that good. We played
See,
GoldenEye, and we didn't care about
mm,
anything else.
the N64 for me, I remember because similarly, like my cousin had it, and just to fact check ourselves, Konami code is up, up, down, down, up, up, down, down, left, right, BA. Um,
Oh, okay.
the select start was also in my mind. I don't know
Yeah.
Yeah.
why.
Maybe they added it in the Super Nintendo?
Maybe.
Mm.
But yeah, the N64, my cousin got it first. So him and I are the same age. And I remember, yeah, Super Mario 64. We played that religiously at his place. 1080 skateboarding, GoldenEye,
Great
and then
game, great
the
game.
only reason then I finally jumped on the N64 was Smash Bros. I remember going to
Yeah.
church and like we would go to church every Sunday back in the day. And my mom was like, I was begging her for months, and I was like, she's like, if we go to church and I'm gonna ask you questions about what the priest said after church, and you get all the questions right, I'll buy you an N64. You better believe I paid attention like I never fucking paid attention before to that mass. Got all the questions right, went to fucking Zellers and bought an N64, and off to the races we went.
Bad deal, eh? You coulda got a PlayStation way better.
I had a PlayStation already, actually, because the PlayStation was my first
Oh.
console. My dad got it for me for Christmas the year it came out.
Yeah, so, like, when the PlayStation came out, we could get because most of us I guess I was a teenager, most of the games we wanted to play were, Grand Theft Auto
Hmm. Metal Gear
and
Solid.
sports games.
Yeah,
No, Metal Gear Solid really it was there, but it was more growing up where I lived, we're all playing hockey, and we
true.
wanna play NHL. The better
Mhm.
version of NHL was on the PlayStation. There was no version of NHL. NHL 97 or 96 came out on the N64, it had Lindros on it. It was garbage, like, absolute garbage. So we played it on the PlayStation, and then we got Tomb Raider, and then you get all these games on the PlayStation, you're like, yeah, and I never went back to Nintendo. My brother stayed. He got the GameCube. He kept going with the consoles.
Mhm.
That's when I became a PlayStation guy, and then got the PlayStation 2, went away to university, forgot about video games for a long time. Well, I'd say 5 years, but it felt like a
Mhm.
long time at the time. And then I got my first job and the Xbox 360 was coming out. And I was living in downtown Toronto and the Future Shop across the street from us had like a lineup
Yes.
the night before, and my roommate at the time was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go line up and get this thing." I'm like, "You know what? Grab me one." He's like, "You don't even play video games." I'm like, "Grab me one." And he's like, "What game do you want?" I'm like, "I don't know." And I played Call of Duty on the PC, so I'm like, "Call of Duty," and that was the funny part. Like, Call of Duty was an old game by the time it finally came to
Yeah.
consoles. It'd been on the
Yeah.
PC for a while, so I'm like, "All right,
Mhm.
grab me Call of Duty," and it was over. I grabbed Call of Duty, I finished it on I finished it on hard. It didn't matter. I ran the table with that game. And then Assassin's Creed came out, and then BioShock came out, and then once BioShock came out, I was my mind got blown. I was caring about achievements, and then right at the end of the life cycle, right before I moved, I quit my job and I had the summer of court. I bought a PlayStation 3 because I wanted to try Uncharted. So
Yes.
Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. I bought 1, 2, and 3. I bought Infamous 1 and 2, and I bought nothing else. And then my Xbox started collecting dust.
So let me ask you this because I feel like, and Lou, I'm going to ask you after too because I'm curious. Because I feel like something that from that era that is like very definitively lives in my memory that I feel like just isn't a thing anymore was the midnight launch. You know what I mean? You'd go,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you'd line up, midnight, the store would open back up, you'd go in. Is there a game from your memory that you think of? Like when you think of the midnight launch, is there one in your mind that you're like, that's the one? When I think of
Grand
midnight
Theft
launches,
Auto.
yeah?
Grand Theft Auto.
Which one?
Well, Grand Theft Auto 4 or
4 would have been
3?
360.
The
Yeah.
yeah, then would be 4. So
Yeah.
because I got it's the with Miko
The,
Bella, like
the
he's living
Russian.
in
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The
Yeah.
very that was the only one because I was lucky enough. There was a mom and pop uh store that was near my house that I worked for Enterprise Rent a Car and I'd rent cars. And where we lived in Young and Egg, where I was living, he would rent cars from us all the time. So I'd be like, I'll give you a deal if you let me have the game when it's in. So like he would call the branch and be like, I remember I had NHL like almost 2 weeks before it came out. I remember I got
Wow.
Assassin's Creed 2 like a week and a half before it came out, like for retail. He'd just
Mhm.
call me up and be like, okay, come at the end of the day because he wrote receipts down. He didn't actually have a so he could give us. I was getting every game, and then the store closed. and that's when I had to
No.
start like not getting games before everybody. Everyone used to think that I was like a game reviewer because I'd have the game so early. I was like,
That is amazing. Blue, did you ever go to any midnight launches? What's the one that stands out?
Yes, definitely. There's one that stands out for me, and that would be Halo 3. So it was September 2007,
Mm-hmm.
and lining up at EB Games to get Halo 3, of course. Was in grade 9 or grade 10, I think it was. I can't remember now,
Something
but
like that, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, what a game! And if you were there on the midnight release day, you'd get a shirt that said "iPone Noobs." And at the time, we were like, imagine wearing this to school. That would be incredibly embarrassing.
Can
And
you
we
imagine
kept,
like rocking up on like Civvies Day and iPhone noobs? Like you would fucking never get a girlfriend for the rest of your high school
yeah,
days.
oh yeah. I wonder if you could find those shirts on eBay now. I should probably check. Halo 3 release day, iPone Noobs shirt. That would be hilarious. Um,
You know, it's funny. I remember the launch. I don't think I got the shirt. I don't
really?
think because
All
that's
right.
the one that stands out to me too. I remember going with my buddy and lining up hours before. Maybe they ran out or something because I think we were like I don't know 10th or 12th in line or something. But
Mm,
yeah, that's the midnight launch that stands out to me too. Just because I remember going home and being like, I know I have school tomorrow, but
yeah,
I want to play at least a bit.
totally. Yeah.
Oh, good times.
yeah, I
Midnight
went out to
launches.
the
Those,
bar. I went out to the bar and came back, and the console was in my house.
yeah, that's
This is what
changing of the
happened.
times.
Mhm.
Okay, so we got to the PS3, and that's when you kind of the 360 and the PS3 era brought you back into gaming,
Yep.
and then
And
what?
then then I became hardcore. Then I was on IGN. I found Podcast Beyond, Greg Miller,
Yes.
and then I'm watching E3. I'm getting that PS4 as soon as it comes out. I'm getting the PS4 Pro as soon as it came out.
Hmm.
I bought an Xbox One. I had it for a whole finish Sunset Overdrive and return it. Because everything about that console drove me absolutely crazy. How long it took to do things. It was just
TV,
I,
TV,
I'll
TV,
say this. I don't
TV,
care. Like I
TV.
love an Xbox now, and you know that. Like that console
Hmm.
sucked. That was
Yeah.
probably the most disappointing console ever in the history of consoles. GameCube was better than the Xbox One.
Hmm.
Okay. The
Hmm.
Wii U was better than the Xbox One. The Xbox
Oh,
One had the longest load times I've ever seen in the history of a console. The download speeds on any game. I remember getting the Master Chief Collection and never playing it because it was like 5 hours. And I'm hooked up to the landline and I'm like, nah. Like it was so poorly designed. I don't even understand. I still think the concept of having TV and all that I think it was ahead of its time, just like I think Stadia is ahead of its time. The technology is just not there yet. And if you look at what the Xbox One is, it's kind of what consoles do now. Just
Hmm.
it was back then. But being an online, always on, and the terrible Wi-Fi and terrible everything made zero sense. So PlayStation 4 all the way, PlayStation 4 Pro, and then we get to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, where for the first time ever in a console generation, I use both.
hmm.
Like
Yep.
I've talked about this, Matt. I do a PlayStation show, but I will buy wherever Digital Foundry says the better version of the game is. So I
And that's
still love
fair.
I got my platinum. I got my Last of Us platinum. I will platinum God of War. I platinum Spider-Man. I'll platinum those games that I can.
Hmm.
But I'll still get my achievements. Like when I get game codes, 9 times out of 10, I just ask for an Xbox code.
And that's fair.
Because the Xbox Series X has quick resume.
Yep.
And Matt knows that's my favorite thing of all time. If it's an online only game, it doesn't. It's yeah. I'll probably play it on PlayStation because I like the controller a little bit better.
Hmm.
But if it is not, and it's a single player campaign driven game, and it's a third party and not a first party game, I'm playing it on Xbox because of quick resume. That's the greatest feature ever invented in video games.
It's so good. It's such a good feature. And yeah, like similarly, like it wasn't until this generation that I came back to Xbox from the 360, and it was Game Pass. Game Pass is just like there's it's such an instant buy-in. Like so many games just sitting there waiting for you. It's just way too good. So I'm glad, Court, because this brings us full circle. This brings us back to the present of today. But I feel like, and we've talked about this on the PlayStation Drive, and it's something that I've always wanted to dig more into with you because I think, like you mentioned, gaming for you over the last year has changed,
Hmm.
right? Like things have changed. Your daughter's gotten to the point now where she's understanding the controls, she's understanding what's going on, she's
She takes
actually asking to playing games,
No, she
right?
doesn't even ask anymore, dude. This controller right here, which is the 20th anniversary, she has her
Yes.
own custom design lab one downstairs in the basement, and she's like, "No, Daddy, that's for the downstairs Xbox." and it says her name and it says Princess beside it. But this one has become hers. So we're going to Florida, and she's like, "Daddy, well, we're bringing the Xbox." I'm like, "Well, honey, I don't want to bring it. Like, it's a big pain in the butt." And she's like, "But you were playing video games with me when you were in Texas." I was like, "Well, I just brought the laptop, and we can just." She's like, "What?" I was like,
What
"Well,
do you
you can
mean?
just bring the laptop, and you can just play through the cloud." And she was like, "So that's what we're gonna do." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, we're gonna do that." And that's the other thing about Xbox that Matt and I literally just had this conversation yesterday that we want PlayStation to do. The fact that I can just there's a laptop over there, and thank you Xbox Canada for sending me said laptop. Um, that I can just open the Xbox app and play whatever I want. And if it's on my console, I can still play it. So like
Mhm.
I am purposely going to be downloading a bunch of games onto my console so that if I want to play them like a first party game, if I get up early at the house in Florida, I can play it. I am trying to figure out a way because NHL comes out while I'm gone to download it to my like get my father-in-law to come to my house and download it onto my Xbox so that when I'm away in Florida, I can still play this game.
Yeah.
Because you can't that won't work.
Mhm.
I've tried to do I was in Texas and I tried to upload a game. I tried to have Deathloop. I had to play Deathloop stream and didn't work out so well. But if you can download it, if I can get it onto my console, I can download it onto my laptop because they let you do that.
Yep. So then let me ask you this, because with the birth of your daughter, and I mean that obviously led you to Three Dads in a Podcast, which is where your gaming content creator life started. I would guess.
For gaming, yes. That literally 3 dads in a console was it. Also, by
So
the
then,
way, this is
mhm.
the greatest controller of all time. A DualSense is great and all, but
Is
this,
that the Halo one?
the Halo Edition Series 2 Elite, this it doesn't break. Like I know Elite controllers break. This thing doesn't break. It is so concave and color. I've talked about this. The thing I don't like about the DualSense is a little bit big, but I love the haptic. I think
Mhm.
haptic is you put haptic in this and you have the like it just feels like a mitt and it's Halo. Like it's so good looking, right? Like
It's a
Oh
nice
yeah.
it's
controller.
so nice.
It's so
Mind you,
nice.
the edge is coming out, right? We'll see how that is.
Yeah, we'll see. But then would you say that like was it the birth of your daughter that helped your journey into video game content creation? Would you go you know what I mean?
Well, kind of. So I was already doing the hockey stuff right before she
Mhm.
was born because I found myself at home a lot more because my wife and I weren't going out. So
Yeah.
that's when I started all the hockey podcasting. But the birth of my daughter got me to meet the people that I do the podcast about video games now. So yes, you know what? Yes,
Right?
that is exactly because I wouldn't have met Waba and I wouldn't have met Pez because our thing in common was we all had brand new kids. So we were always talking about we would doing a hockey podcast and it would end up just us talking about Breath of the Wild and whether I liked it and they liked it and our kid. And we had someone like in a do a review of our hockey podcast one time. I was like, "You guys don't talk about hockey." I'm like, "Oh, yeah." And that like we were and that's I one time in our Discord chat, I was like, "So do you want to just not do the hockey one and just start a video game podcast?" And we're actually in the middle of right now at Three Dads to just drop the console part and just call it Three Dads Podcast. We're actually thinking about doing that because we end up talking about like Disney Plus or Disney Plus a lot. Like Bluey is the greatest TV show ever, ever. And there's things we'll go in like if Pez goes sees a brand new Marvel movie with his daughter, we'll talk about that for the whole episode. Or we had a psychologist on, or if we have someone's having a bad time with their kid, then they come on and they talk about that. So we're like, okay, are we? But we still going to talk about video games. It's weird.
Mhm.
It's I don't know, man. When you have a kid, your everything changes. Everything.
And I find that so fascinating that because of the birth of Emma and everything that's happened since, it's kind of like it's helped bring you to where you are today. So then tell me about the last couple of years, especially the last year, especially as she became more cognizant of what she was doing. And like you said, there was games in this past year that she was like, "Daddy, when is this coming out? Daddy, when is this coming out?" How has that experience been for you now that she's at a point where you really are sharing the experience in a way that is that different from before? Like, tell me about it.
Well, it was something that I wanted. I thought I wanted it, but now when like she straight up like gets up in the morning, we have breakfast, and like I used to come up here and like play the show or like play a game, and she's already like we have as Matt knows, I have a pile of PS5s and Xboxes.
A mountain that he sits, like a throne made out of PS5
And
plates and
so
everything, and he
she
just
comes
sits there reigning
upstairs and
over
she
all.
uses my office, which I like my office because I can do my work at the same time. And I'm
Mhm.
trying to convince her to go in the basement and just be like, it's a better TV anyways in the basement. Go down there and play so that I can come up here and still like get ready for work in the morning and smash through a bit of a games. But it's a lot different for the fact that like we're playing we get a lot of games from a company called Outright Games. They're phenomenal. They started supporting us at Three Dads a really long time ago. Like right off the bat, we DM'd them one time and they were all about it because we started reviewing their games. And my daughter was playing their games. And I truly, truly, truly think that they taught my daughter how to play video games. When we grew up as kids, video games for kids were hard,
Yep.
like unbelievably
Yep.
hard, and they're very good at having a wide variety of games for kids. Some of them are hard. I'll admit, like we're playing one right now. We're playing Dragons, DreamWorks Dragons, Legends of the Nine Realms. We just did a
That's a
boss
name.
fight. We just did a boss fight that is, I was like, "Phew." She wanted to give up, and I'm like, don't. And we kept at it, and it took her about half an hour to beat this boss.
Mhm.
It was a little too hard for my tastes for a game for kids, and there's no difficulty settings in this game, which irk
Okay.
me in a kids
Mhm.
game. But usually they're very good. Like they all just released on Game Pass that Paw Patrol game, and
Right.
what it'll do is the cart you can actually have it so the cart always goes back to the center of the lane, just like Mario Kart does actually. The accessibility settings are really good. And she learned platformers on that. She's learned open world games like Spirit and My Little Pony, and now she is playing Disney's well,
Dreamlight Valley.
Dreamlight. Jesus, I was
Got
like
you.
DreamWorks because I said DreamWorks Legends of the Nine.
Yep.
So Disney's Dreamlight Valley is her jam right now more than anything. She changes her costume. She decorates her house. She can't read, yet she can figure out the what to do in the game. Like she's getting all the sticks. She's talking to each character and she's just figuring it out how to complete missions. And she wants to like she's the one who said, "Well, no." Like I was like, "Oh, I can bring the Switch." She's like, "But I can't play that game on it." I'm not going to tell her that I could
Yeah, you could buy it, but we're
buy it
not
on
having that
Switch.
conversation.
No,
Yeah.
it's on
No,
Game
no, no, no.
Pass. That's not you
Yeah.
know how I work.
Mhm.
If the game is on Game Pass, I'm not buying it
That's
on
where
any other console
that's where
unless
it's
its
played.
name is MLB The Show.
Yep.
And so actually, I probably Disney on the Switch would actually make more sense. But anyways, I she is so addicted that she wants to play this game in Florida, and I've decided I was like, I thought this would be hilarious. I said to her, I was like, you know what we could do, honey? She's like, what? I'm like, well, we could play it on my phone. She's like, no. I'm like, yes,
No.
it's Game Pass
Okay.
is on my
She
phone.
has taste.
And I'm like, and we can do that at Disney at the Magic Kingdom. And we'll just do it for fun. And she's like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "No, we can do it. Like, I can hook up to their Wi-Fi there because believe it or not, Disney has phenomenal Wi-Fi. Friend of the show, Matt Assemble, just got back
Mhm.
from there. Said the
Oh,
Wi-Fi was
dang.
phenomenal. I can hook up to Game Pass and break the fourth wall and play Disney's Dreamlight Valley in the Magic Kingdom. And she
Th-
wants to do that. That's something she wants to do. So it's different for me now that my daughter loves video games, which is great. It takes some getting used to because
mhm.
she knows which console's which is Xbox, which is PlayStation. She knows how to turn them on, turn them off. She knows how to change the audio, like change which one
Mhm.
on the TV. She knows which games are on which consoles. So it's different. And she's excited about games that are coming out. Like she knows there's a game I know that's going to be released. I'm not going to say it on here that I know is coming to Outright
Mhm.
Games, and she is so excited for this game, like beyond. She's also very excited about the Lego games. When she
Yeah.
hears there's a new Lego game, she's all about it.
That's so awesome, dude. I'm so glad, on how gaming has changed for you and evolved because, like, I know we've been having this conversation for months now, but it always makes me so happy to hear, like, it's almost like the Emma update. Like, what's Emma into now? What's she playing? How is she learning? What is she changing? How is she growing within the space alongside you? Because it's so cool. It's like, I don't know, like Lou, are you, your possible kids down the line? Do you want them into video games? Is that a thing that you're considering?
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah,
Can you
100%.
imagine raiding with your kid on WoW?
Yeah.
Right? Like the idea of that is so cool for me. And just, like I'm like living vicariously through you for now as I'm being like, what's Emma doing now? What does she like to play? What is she enjoying?
Well, I played with her while I was in Texas.
I
She
know.
was sitting at the console. She put my phone up so we could talk, and I couldn't play. Dreamlight Valley is not multiplayer, but
Mhm.
she was putting the camera so I could see the screen, and I was reading what the characters were saying, and then she would then put the phone back, and then she would have the mission going so that we could talk.
See,
It
that
was
warms my
crazy.
heart. That warms my heart entirely. The fact that A, gaming is at the point now where things like that can happen and technology as a whole. And B, the fact that, she's growing and changing in the space as well. And I'm excited to continue hearing about your journey with it because, it's cool to look at gaming in a different way, in a way that I can't tangibly understand as of yet. But to hear from you is always exciting.
And that's why I want to get back into other games. I'm like, I want to play something. I want to play a game again. I got really hooked in. I think maybe that's why I got hooked into the show, because I needed something that I could just jump in and jump out, because my daughter uses the console more than I do.
So let me ask you this: when she was younger, did you ever do the thing? Because like when I was growing up, I have two younger brothers, and it was the thing that like when my middle brother reached a point where he was able to actually play games with me. Obviously, the youngest one would be sitting there being like, "I want to play," and like we'd give him like a Nintendo 64 and kind of put it under the PlayStation and be like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, you're playing, you're playing." We'd give him a controller for a completely different console. Have you ever done that? Have you ever been like, "Yeah, yeah, you're playing with me, you're playing with me," and just handing them a different controller?
No, so I've been my brother's 3 years older, so I've always been the youngest. So I've
Hmm.
always been lucky. Like, he's Sherpa'd me throughout, and he's very good at games. So I've always had that Sherpa, and he's always let me try. Emma's very first game she ever played was Miles Morales Spider-Man on release day. And all she would do was I would let her swing around,
Hmm.
and we played it at around Christmas time, so that became a Christmas game. And she would swing around Brooklyn, and then when she's like, "Daddy, bad guy," and she would give me the controller back. And then she got to play Astro Playroom, and that was the first game I think that she fell in love with video games. She liked Spider-Man just for swinging,
Hmm.
and when we got the codes for Spider-Man PC, she lost her mind, because this office, I share it with her. So her desk is actually right beside me. So she does her homework and everything there. So when she's done that, she's allowed to play video games. So she understands that on Steam, she can play Spider-Man. So if I'm using the Xbox or the PlayStation that's in here, she can be like, "Daddy, can you put it on the water app?" Because they call it Steam. She thinks it's the water app. I'm like,
Oh
"Yeah, yeah."
my
And I'll throw
god.
on Spider-Man. I've downloaded this Lego game that she likes playing. She hated Roblox. She didn't like Minecraft, which is hilarious.
Hmm.
And I'm afraid to ever let her play Animal Crossing.
That's she'll be in. She'll be in 100%, especially if she's already enjoying Disney Dreamlight Valley, giving her
But
cute
she
little
likes
animals
Disney
that
for
she
the characters, though.
I know, but I mean it's Animal Crossing. They're adorable little animals, you know? That's an easy sell for a kid too. So before I go on my question journey, I'm going to toss it over to Lou in case he has something to ask because I have a couple more things that I want to round out the show with.
Sure, yeah, no problem. I want to know, Court, if you had to pick one game, what is the one game that you think is the best game of all time? Maybe that you think is the most deserving of the title of art, or perhaps the game that was really important to you. Sorry, Matt. I think I'm stealing your one of your
You're
questions, but
good.
But he
a
knows the
game
answer, though.
that was yeah. um, yeah. Let's hear it. What game comes to
Well,
mind when I say these
when it
things?
comes to the most fun I've ever had in a game, would be Super Mario World, by far. Even though the NHLs I had, Super Mario World, I just enjoyed it with so many different people. But if I'm gonna go down as the best game for me personally of all time, it's The Last of Us Part One.
No,
Sorry, was
okay.
that part
It
2?
No, part 1.
Part 2.
I finished it twice on the PlayStation 3, and then when it came out on the PlayStation 4, I finished it twice again. I went down to an emotional journey with both times playing it through. This time playing it, and Matt knows this, I had a hard time finishing it a lot of the times, and it wasn't because, it was, "Oh, I'm playing this game again." I felt the subtle upgrades, I shouldn't call them subtle, the upgrades that they did to this and the facial expressions of the characters and the modeling brought more, impact than I've ever seen in a video game, that I had to put the controller down. I was like, "I can't play for a bit." I finished the first scene, the prologue at the beginning of the game, and I had to stop playing. I couldn't play because I needed to hug my daughter before I could play anymore. And I've never had that feeling. I was like, "Nope, I cannot play." I was, crying. I was like, "This is oh my god." I knew what was coming, and it destroyed me.
Mhm.
And I even think of Sarah waking up now, and it just oh my god,
Oh,
it is just every
chills.
time I hear her, I see that in my head of her waking up and walking around looking for him, and I'm just like, "Oh my god." And then there was so many more impactful scenes that they didn't impact me the same way. I knew that I love the game, I love the story because I truly feel it is the most heart-wrenching and true to story we've ever played in a video game. It is unbelievably that how well it was story written, and it even Left Behind, like, to bring that type of story to a video game wasn't heard of at the time. No one did that story. They were even ridiculed for making the character the way they did. People were mad at the time, if you remember.
Mhm.
Now it's like that's a normal thing to have an LGBTQ community character in a game. That's just
Mhm.
normal. But
Yep.
back then, that wasn't normal. That was a big deal. And they took risks to do that, and they have so many different the combat styles. But there's a scene where Ellie is with David in a bar that's on fire. It's the best way I can describe it without giving away
Yep.
that I told Matt. It happens at a point where Joel comes into this scene and Ellie is crying and Joel is consoling her, and then there's silence. When that happened before, I'm pretty sure I was just like, whatever.
Mhm.
I was so emotionally drained just from that because I truly was like, she's my daughter. Like that it was I'm a fa it was oh my god. And I could feel the emotion, the raw emotion from them just talking without sound, Joel and Ellie, to being the most impactful scene I've ever seen in a video game. There's I wanted to put it online, but it's such a spoiler to put
Yep.
that scene online, so I was like, "I can't," but it's unbelievable. The one I did put online is there's a scene in this game because it's the only game where I it's almost like Batman '89 the movie and Back to the Future, where I can give you scene by scene and what happens. And they're on top of it and looking at the Capitol building, and Ellie looks over at it and she says, That's unbelievably beautiful." And Joel looks at her, not at the Capitol building, and just smiles. And it's there when Joel finally takes down his walls of aggression and emotion and what he's been through and his journey, where he's like, nothing will ever happen to this girl again because I will make
Mhm.
sure of it. And you can, and as a parent, that was the difference playing this game this time, where I was just like, oh my god, I said to Matt, like, I platinumed it so quick. I was like I messaged Matt one day, like, "I'm just gonna platinum it today." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna platinum it." Before our show, I wanted to make sure I had it
Yep.
platinum before we did the review on the show, and I don't think I can go back to it again, and usually I can go back to play a game. I don't think I wanna go on that journey again because it destroyed me, playing a video
So
game.
I love that, and I know how much you love and care about this game, and I know your true feelings about part two and how it's better. But to round out the conversation, I want to ask because
So
like,
not true.
I want to ask because it's like now we do the PlayStation Drive together. You're on Xbox A, you're on Three Dads, you're very prominently part of Carpool. You're running the socials, you're doing all these things, and we've spoken about mental health before and how important it is. How do you take care of yourself throughout all of this? As you've already mentioned at near the top of the show, that even dealing with public speaking can be difficult. So how do you take care of yourself throughout all of this? Because all this can be draining. It is constantly being on. It is constantly putting yourself out there in a way that I feel like is not on like there's nothing else that compares to the way that we do things as content creators in this space. Not to say it's difficult, not to say it's easy. It's different. How do you take care of yourself in the midst of all that?
Not very well sometimes.
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember a couple weeks ago, I was just like I put into our messages, I was like, "So I'm outie for a little bit."
Yep.
And I just needed time,
Mhm.
because and it's kind of funny, it was right after The Last of Us, where I was just like, I'm done for a bit, and I think maybe because I got emotionally drained from it, or if I have issues at home, I make that first. That's the thing. I have no problem of not being on social media for a whole weekend. I'm I'm going away to Florida, and the old me would have been like, "Hey, I'll still do the stuff while I'm away." And this time
Hmm.
I Discord, I'm like, "Yeah, so I'm out. Like I'm out. I'm not gonna. I'll joke around. I'll maybe still be there, but that's not gonna be a priority to me."
Hmm.
Um, new member to Carpool, Seth. He's gonna take over, and I think that helps a lot. People being able to do things and saying no problem. Like the when I was away, but I could tell that you were having a bad day. And you were. And I was like, you know what? I'm in my hotel room, no big deal. And I did the hey, here, can we get some questions? And you
Yeah.
were like, thank you, because you were having a bad day. I think that helps a ton. Like, especially at Carpool, we always seem to look after each other. Um, and I know, Sean does a great job of like being a soundboard for me when I text him. But I also I see someone. So if I really need someone, I make a phone call and I go see someone.
Hmm.
My wife is amazing, um, especially for when I was having panic attacks and such. She was there for me to calm me down and such. But I have no problem getting help if I need it. And I think
Hmm.
that's like the biggest thing people need to do. And it's the biggest step it's a hard time for people to do. And it's a hard time to admit that, I need help. Like when I had my concussion, I suffered a mental breakdown, like a straight up mental breakdown. I almost committed myself. I didn't know what I was doing.
Hmm.
My mind did not work properly. And I lost a year of my life. And so I know what that means now. So for me, my family gets me through a lot. And so like that's why, going to Florida is very important for us. I'm going to shut off. I'm going to When I'm at Disney, I'm not going to be checking Twitter. I won't give a rat's, you know.
Hmm.
It is what it is. I'm missing the start of the NHL season while I'm away. I'm missing the release of NHL while I'm away. And it is what it is.
Hmm.
I There was games we could have done. I put it in there, the Ghostbusters thing today. I put in the review
Yeah.
thing. I'm like, hey, who won? I would love to play that game. I can't review it. I got Destroy All Humans. I was like, I can't do that. I don't
Yeah.
have time for it. I don't know. It's to take the best way to take care of yourself is to make time for yourself.
And I love that, and I appreciate that, and I think that is something that is difficult to do because, like you mentioned, like I think that's something that at least you and I feel like, especially with the PlayStation Drive, we do a good job of being like, today sucks, or this is what's going on, or this is what's going on, and I think we do that really well with Burnout as well. It's just having these honest and frank conversations of sometimes just being like, today was hard, it's one of those days.
Well, you had
So
a bad day today,
I
and
did have
I
a
was
bad day
going to
today.
ask you about it, and I haven't
I
asked
did.
you about it yet. And I
Well,
know
today,
we're running a little long, but maybe
no, it's
you
okay.
need to air out your bad day.
Today was just one of those days where it's just like there's a lot going on in life, and sometimes things just run to a head all at the same time. And today was just one of those days where it's just like I had to go into the office because I'm taking a work from home day on Thursday because we're leaving for Korea on Friday. This weekend was busy just because we're prepping and stuff, and like just there was a lot going on. I didn't sleep well, and it was just one of those things that everything felt on fire all at the same time. And it's one of those things where I've learned now to be like, okay, hold on, take a step back and breathe a second. Today, the rest of the day, I know we had the show. I was excited to do it. I was excited to have you on Burnout. There's things where I was like, okay, focus on that, get to that moment, and then enjoy the rest of the evening, go to sleep, and then try again tomorrow. So I appreciate that, Court, and that does mean a lot to me because I truly do feel like, we do take care of each other. And I'm glad that we have these conversations because I think these conversations are important because I feel like it's really easy to get lost in the shuffle of like, oh, we got this game from PlayStation, like, oh, we're reviewing this, oh, we're doing that. How cool is this opportunity that we got? And I'm super thankful for everything, for every opportunity that we do get sent our way. But I feel like it's important to step back and have these conversations as well, being like, hey, you okay? You know, is everything going all right? What do you need to talk about? And I'm glad that we do that for each other, all of us.
Yeah, and
So
I was even surprised if you noticed when I was talking about a game I wanted to review, and then Ryan's like, "Dude, you can't do that. Like that's too much." Like
yeah.
he's like, "I know you can physically do it, but I don't think you should." Because
Yep.
he's like, you're reviewing like back to back to back." He's like,
Hmm.
"Don't do it." I was like, "You know what? You're right." Like every now and then you gotta just be like, "All right, you know what? I'm out. I'm
Yep.
good." Like I know the next game I'm reviewing is God of War. I don't think I'm reviewing anything else for the year. I'll get Hogwarts on day it releases, but
That's
my
next year,
review will
dude.
just
That's
what?
next year. That's
Exactly,
next
but
year.
that's like the next game. Oh,
Next
well,
one after that.
actually, we know the next
Callisto. Yeah.
No, Gotham Knights, but
No, Goat Simulator 3. Why you already committed to it? You know you're in.
well, that will be fun. But Gotham Knights, I I have a hard. That's one thing that people. It's a very big misconception. It's cool. Yes, 100%. Feel very grateful that we get games.
Mhm.
But man, sometimes trying to finish those games is tough.
Yep, and having the conversations in like an earnest and in an earnest and honest way, I think, is always important. And Lou, so I want to ask you real quick: how do you take care of yourself in the midst of all this? Because I feel like again, we do the show every week together, and we're always talking. But how do you take steps to take care of yourself?
Yeah, sure. So surrounding myself with people I love is important. If I'm having a bad day, I'll make some time to spend some time with Julia. We'll watch something, or we'll play a game, or we'll just chat, or spend some time with our pets, or whatever it is. And of course, just like we're saying here, making time for ourselves. I'm a serial introvert, so if I don't have a certain amount of time of the day dedicated to just being alone,
Mhm.
I start to get antsy, and I start to think about when am I going to get to have some recharge time, so yeah, no, I completely agree with everyone. Yeah, absolutely.
Hell yeah. Well, everyone, that brings us to the end of the end of the show. What a wonderful note to end on. Remember, always take time for yourself, take care of yourself, take care of each other, because the world always feels on fire, and if we're not going to stop to check in on one another, then who will? Court, before we do go, I want to say thank you. I know this week is already busy enough for you. You've already been on multiple shows today. You're leaving imminently, but you still made time for us. So
And
thank you for doing
yesterday,
that. I know.
I did Sunday, I did Monday.
I know. I'm with you, dude. I'm right with you. I completely understand. But Court, if people did want to see and hear more from you, where could they do so?
They can find me on Twitter at Court Alone. All my links are there. My three dad links, my carpo, everything's there. It's all there.
Go find Court, support him, because genuinely, I appreciate you, Court. I love doing the PlayStation Drive with you each and every week. I'm glad that we're a team over at Carpool. I'm glad that you came over and hung out with us here. Thank you for doing what you do, because you are crushing it. And even if you don't hear that enough, I'm very grateful for who you are. So thank you. Keep doing you.
Thank
And
you.
I always got your back 100%. That brings us to the end of the show, everyone. Make sure you go check out Carpool Gaming. If you somehow aren't watching the PlayStation Drive as yet, then fucking come over and watch it every Friday. Well, most Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern, we're live, or you can find it on your network of choice. Come hang
Yeah,
out
unless
with
Matt
us.
forgets to upload it.
Yeah, which happened once. But everyone, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Peace.